Good evening and welcome to the Ogden City Council meeting of September 20th, 2016. Please note that all council members are present except Council Member Stevens has been asked to be excused. We also have Mr. Cook on the phone. With that, I will turn the time over to Vice Chair Blair to give the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take a moment of silence with me. Thank you. Next on our agenda is new business, and we are going to talk about the new Ogden branding. Mayor?
I start or you start?
You do.
Lucky me.
Yeah.
Well, as mentioned, this has been a huge effort in the last little while. We recognized a number of years ago that Ogden City at that point had, I think it was 34 different logos representing every different department and our tourism agency and everything else. And we thought we're missing an opportunity to really bring that together and have a shared voice and a shared focus. It's something we haven't had in a long time. I think they had done a prior study in 2000, right before the Olympics came, and it didn't stick and didn't get some of the traction we'd hoped. So we thought it was great timing with some of the accolades and recognition we'd been getting to bring that together and to all get on the same sheet of music, if you will. So with that, and I'm not a PC guy, there we go. We'll talk a little bit about our Renaissance. Today, Ogden's a much different place than it was those 15 years ago when we last attempted this. A genuine renaissance has occurred due to zoning and land use changes, business recruitment, and increased investment that's visible everywhere. What began as a graffiti cleanup crew turned into the Downtown Ogden Business Alliance, and events started to come in. Once the downtown area became more approachable, these events really were created to help draw in the public. Residents and visitors alike began to feel the imminent resurgence happening within Ogden. And I sent our brilliant special events director a text earlier that asked how many special events did we have in Permit last year. We had over 300 downtown special events last year. So obviously a huge shift in what's going on and on the energy we have in our downtown.
So,
I'll drive.
All right, thanks. It's way different over here. That's just so y'all know. So
nervous?
We have,
You nervous?
I am a little. So we made obviously significant strides to build a stronger community. Our relationships and mostly with our relationships with Weber State, Ogden Weber Tech College, and some of our business partners. Last week we made a really historic event and the signing of the Diversity Charter and establishing the first Diversity Commission. Yeah, I'll let you go. I can keep talking. That's
You
the
could.
problem. Brittany, we didn't know you.
Nationally, this renaissance has been noted. You can see some of those up there. Ogden's been recognized as one of the best places to raise a family, the best places for businesses and careers. Our affordable housing market and incredible 25th Street have received accolades. American Planning Association recognized 25th as one of the top 10 streets in America a couple of years ago. We've been recognized, and you all saw the cover story from Newsweek naming us the most egalitarian city in the country. And about a month ago, Outside Magazine rated Ogden, Utah as the most livable mountain town in the entire United States. Things we're all very proud of.
Okay. So even though we've had all of these great accolades and recognitions, we have some challenges. One of them is the old perceptions. They take a while to die. So we've needed a new look, and so we have a unified and cohesive brand strategy and marketing approach. We realized that we needed to tell our incredible story and create this unified brand.
It was a process. We put out RFPs, looked at different people with their different experience, spent a number of months studying that. We appreciate the efforts of both the council staff and the administration and communications group to really look through those. At the end of the day, the city contracted with Roger Brooks International. He's a renowned leader in community branding. And it was to facilitate a community-involved process that would yield innovative and creative solutions. If we felt if the community didn't buy in and didn't embrace this, then it would be a much more difficult thing to have them adopt and be excited about. Roger and his team helped identify Ogden's brand through assessment, research, and analysis. They produced an online survey that received an overwhelming response of over 1,700 different individual groups. We had group interviews with more than 100 individuals from various sectors of our community and the engagement and input of a brand development team consisting of numerous community stakeholders and area residents. He also came and secret shopped Ogden City and looked all over the community, the entryways, what happened on 25th Street, how welcoming it seemed, and put all of that into a very comprehensive end result.
Sorry, Mayor.
Hello?
There he is.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
So the brand promise, and this was a week-long of a lot of hours and a lot of different people coming.
Brand camp, they called it.
They did call it, and it was not a camp. It was a lot of people in our community that came up with the brand promise. And it gets to the essence of what and who Ogden is. And as you can see there, as Utah's Renaissance city, fiercely independent and unabashed, Ogden always offers an unconditional welcome in an adventurous mountain metro setting.
Part of that came out of Ogden's character. That's one of the things that we all are very proud of, and we've got a rich, eclectic history that I think makes it such a unique place to be. That brand is characterized by the legacy of an untamed past and application of that spirit to a can-do attitude and personal growth, preferring dirt over pavement, wilderness over refinement, and not focusing on impressing others. It is moving on from the rough and tumble decades of the early 20th century to pushing the envelope of personal achievement. Ogden is outgoing, active, youthful, independent, not judgmental, living outside of predefined boundaries, willing to take risks, doing what others say can't be done, and that's made up of the characters that live here.
So Ogden's brand is our people. We looked around at a lot of different cities and tried to come up with one characteristic that we could come up with within our city. Other cities have maybe a big football program or a big brewery or something, and what we came up with is Ogden is our people. And so we are fiercely independent and unafraid to shake things up. So that's where you're going to see this go a little bit. We don't take no for an answer, and once we set our minds to something, we are innovators, we're diverse, and we are unconditionally welcoming. Ogden is a place for people to experience a personal renaissance.
Some of the examples you'll see here, this little piece you see that's a little tough to see reads, "Standing at the trailhead, I didn't ask the dude for directions. It turns out he's not only the guy who makes all the trail maps, he started the Ogden Bicycle Collective and has put hundreds of kids on bikes who would have otherwise never turned a crank. Some superheroes wear capes, some wear beards." And those of you that know Josh will recognize him in the top right-hand corner. And it's not just stories like that. The brand and the imaging that comes with this is a really important part of that. It's not just a logo and a tagline and everything else. This was one he loved. It's stories like that, and of people like Damian Lillard and Sammy Brew, who have both come to Ogden, relatively unknown, found themselves and have risen to national prominence. They've undergone their own personal renaissance here. Combine that with the beauty, vibrancy of a downtown, quick access to outdoor recreation, and you have a place like none other.
I have to mention that I freaking love it here, because there were probably 25 people in the room, and that was kind of what kept resonating over and over. It's like, I freaking love it here. I really, really like it here. And so it kind of just stuck. So not only did Roger come with examples of, how we can brand ourselves outside, but he also came with recommendations to change our city. So, for instance, changing the framework of our city, like a public plaza and a marketplace, wayfinding signs, and beautification along 25th Street. Really an Ogden-focused marketing effort through partnerships using like the Chamber and some of our other partners like Weber State.
And we had Roger present some of these findings, if you will recall, in about a 50-minute presentation a number of months ago. The chambers here were packed. There was a tremendous amount of interest in that, and we consolidated that a little bit. So we'll play a recap of what he presented while he was here.
How do we tell the story of Ogden so it's different than everybody else, so that people remember it, and so they say, Ogden's really cool? Because Ogden's always struggled with that. And so that's what this whole process is. And once you can find that, how do we paint that picture? Then it becomes really cool. And then you have tourism, economic development, the city, Chamber of Commerce, you have everybody, Weber State even, on the same page, pulling in the same direction, because you're so much powerful as one loud voice than a bunch of separate, small, little voices. You know what's so cool about Ogden is the brand was already here. It's really the character of the people and why I live in Ogden. Certain words came up like we are unconditionally welcoming. We're not judgmental. You can be who you are here. It doesn't matter. Being fiercely independent. It goes back to the early days of Ogden, is that the people have always been fiercely independent. Maybe it was notorious in the old days, but now it's notoriously great in terms of the skiing, the recreation. You can be in the middle of downtown Ogden and in 2 minutes be out on the trails in the mountains. Ogden has been going through a renaissance. And in Ogden, you can go through a personal renaissance. You can come here and you can make your own way, and nobody's going to judge you. If you fail once, let's try it again. And that's really the spirit of Ogden. It's really the lifestyle here that is the core attribute of the brand. The tagline is still untamed. Our trails are untamed. We don't believe in living in a box. We like that untamed feel, which really makes Ogden cool. So bringing Union Station into that, making 25th Street even better, and then connecting over to the junction and other areas is really going to bring out the heart and soul of Ogden in its fiercely independent and notoriously awesome ways.
So with that, a huge thank you to all the community members that participated in this. I know some of them are behind us here, and we really appreciate you giving your time, energy, and perspectives on this. As was mentioned, we had interviews, and over 100 people participate, over 1,700 fill out the survey and give us their thoughts and feelings on this. So it's been a very comprehensive, very involved process, and we really want to thank everybody that put so much time and energy into this really unique outcome. So we're looking forward to this maturing and going to work on it, and we appreciate your consideration.
So is there any public input? Former council member? So I do want to say that I do want to thank you guys that spent that week long with us and then ongoing. There's more to come. So thank you for being here. Any comments, questions?
It's just really exciting to finally consolidate all the cool things about Ogden into this new brand. I'm very excited as we move forward with this.
Chair White, I've watched that video a number of times, and I noticed two things. One, it shows me from the back of my head, and I'm surprised how much hair I'm losing. But two, it resonates with me every single time I watch it, because I think that it captures the essence of Ogden. And I'm really excited about this, and when you're ready, I'd like to make a motion. When appropriate.
Any other comments?
One quick comment. In the video, I heard Roger Brooks using the phrase unconditionally welcoming as being a trait of our city. And I think in today's paper, there was an opinion piece from the dean of the business college, Jeff Stigall, about the incredibly welcoming environment that we have displayed for the refugees that just came to settle in Ogden. So I just feel very proud to live in this city and see that this really exemplifies the values of our community and our city. So just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
And, it's very inspirational to watch Roger and to see his enthusiasm, and the 1,700 respondents is impressive for our community. With the logo, I'm very supportive of the logo, and I think of what Councilmember Heyer said, to consolidate all of these and get something that we all recognize. I've mentioned this in the work session, but I'll say it here is I'm still a little uncomfortable with the word "still untamed." I think we have to be cautious how we use that. Still untamed in moving forward and things like Roger mentioned, but I think we have to be careful that some community members may take that as a negative, and just want to be cautious about that, how we use it.
And I just, for the record too, that the style guide and the brand strategy, the style guide gives us the opportunity to use various parts of that. So just wanted to make sure that the style guide is kind of our defining guide, if you will, so template.
Yeah, thank you, Chair White. If there's no more discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt proposed joint resolution 2016-12.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nadolski, second by Councilmember Lopez, to adopt the joint resolution. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Next is the Ogden logo and seal.
I'll make that motion if that's okay. I'll move that we adopt ordinance 2016-52.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Vice Chair Blair. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye. That passes. Again, thank you to everyone who worked so hard on this. And hopefully we will now consolidate 45 logos into one signature. That just says what? Ogden. Reports from the Planning Commission.
Madam Chair and members of the council, the Plan Commission reviewed a petition which had been filed with the city regarding amending the ordinance to allow adult daycare as a use in the professional institutional zones. Whoop, that's the wrong one. Technology is great. So we received a petition to amend the ordinance. Adult daycare is presently defined in our city ordinance and is allowed in certain zones, but the petitioner wished to expand that present definition and limitation to where it can be to include the PI zones because of property they were looking at. Adult daycare is basically less than 24-hour supervision of adults because they may have necessities of being watched because they can't take care of certain skills, but they want to stay at home or want to stay with a guardian rather than being institutionalized. And so while we have other provisions that deal with care centers, senior living, those type of things, the adult daycare is a specific use that we have in our ordinance now. You can see those list of uses in this chart of adult daycare, assisted living, nursing homes, and retirement, and where those are allowed. What you notice is along that adult daycare line, while it's a permitted use in R4 and R5 zones and commercial zones and CBD, it was not listed as a use allowed in the PI zone, where the other types of uses are allowed in the PI zone. So it didn't make sense why that exclusion, as the petitioner brought to the attention of the city by that petition. The PI zones are zones that were intended to create an office or professional area separate and apart from commercial businesses, so it had limited functions and limited areas of use. And this map shows you those areas of PI along Washington Boulevard, 12th Street, Harrison Boulevard, and in particular the property that the petitioner is interested in is on Valley Drive, just off of Harrison, an old wedding reception center area. The proposed language the Commission is recommending to you is to amend the language by stating that you can have both daycare and adult daycare of less than 24-hour service, and that with that revision, that would then allow the petitioner to move forward. The Planning Commission, as they reviewed this language, are recommending by a 7-0 vote that you consider approving this ordinance that's before you tonight for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No. So is Mr. Larson here, the petitioner? Would you like to come up and...
I would just like to state that we're excited to revitalize an old building that's been in, part of Ogden's heritage for a long time, and keep it very similar to what it is, but to use it in a little bit different fashion. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those. I think they've done a good job of explaining why we want to change the verbiage and so forth.
And you would have to follow the state requirements.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Correct?
Yeah, we would be a licensed adult daycare by the state.
Mr. Larson, with that, I think we've covered this in our work session, but there's no overnight.
No. It will be, the hours of operation will be 7 to 6, and so there will be no overnight stays.
And this allows individuals opportunities to bring family members there, while they work and have somebody who's responsible to help watch them, but it's not necessarily a care center.
That's correct. Yeah, anyone that cannot be left alone by themselves, we offer that opportunity. A lot of caregivers have their spouses, a parent, an aunt, uncle, and so forth, where they can't watch them 24 hours a day, and if they do, they get they get burnout more than to say it any better way. And so this just gives them an opportunity to have a place they can leave their loved one. There will be RNs, CNAs. I mean, the state outlines exactly what we have to do. So it's a regulated facility. It will be a lockdown facility. So once someone is in, they can't just leave on their own. And so that's how we are planning on using it.
How will the charges work?
Oh, excuse me?
Charging for these, what's the cost?
Okay, so there's three different ways that you can charge for the revenue streams, I guess you could look at. The biggest one is private pay, and it will be about $70 a day. The other is veterans. The Veterans Association will pay for that, their benefits. And the third one is Medicaid. Medicaid, there are more strict regulations on that, but we're more than happy to accommodate those. The facility, how it currently sits, we're looking at keeping it like it is. We are looking at expanding the back garden area, and then remodeling the bathrooms, and then putting an entryway in. And so the renovation of the building itself is going to be very minimal.
How many people do you anticipate serving in this facility?
We will be serving anywhere from between 20 to 35. We can hold up to 45 if I'm not mistaken, but we're looking at probably cutting it off at about 35.
Would you allow for hourly fees?
Hourly fees, how we normally would do it is you could do a half day, but we do recommend that you pay the flat fee and then you can leave the individual there from anywhere from 4 hours to the entire opening operation.
What about any kind of support or programming for low-income families?
And that would be where Medicaid comes in.
That would be through Medicaid?
Yes. Yep.
So this change is just to make sure that we are changing the zoning.
Right, just
we are
zoning.
asking a lot of questions of you that are not related to zoning, but since you're in front of us, we're asking.
No, and it's something that I've met with a lot of individuals as far as doctors. I've met with just people that are in the field, and it's something it's kind of unique in the fact that on the East Coast it's very popular, in the Midwest it's very popular, but out here it hasn't taken off. I don't know why no one's put forth the effort. Everyone we've talked to says it's just an incredible idea. Everyone that we talk to, for the most part, knows someone that could take advantage of the facility, and so we're excited to get it started.
Thank you, Mr. Larson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. You went above and beyond in answering our questions. Any other questions for Mr. Montgomery at all?
It almost looked like when he put up the graph or the grid, it seemed like it was an oversight almost, and it's a good thing to get this thing straightened up. I think that's something that is needed in all communities, ours not the least of them. So it's good to get this done, and if you're ready for a motion, I'm ready to make it.
Questions?
Madam Chair, if you want to accept public input.
Yep, thank
Sorry,
you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
I read that here. So this is an opportunity for public input as well. So any others that would like to come forward? Okay. Now you can.
Okay. Well, I would make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2016-51.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and second by Councilmember Garner to adopt this proposed ordinance. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Mr. Larson. Next is reports from administration. The property transfer for the 911 center.
This is going to be Mr. Montgomery and Mr. Stratford, and then I noticed that Tina Matthews came in, and she'll straighten out whatever they get wrong.
All right.
So we'll begin by talking about the Planning Commission's role in this request, and that is to consider transferring property, both physical land and some building space for the 911 district call center. In the proposal that came before the Planning Commission, which is they're required to review any transfer of property for compliance with the general plan, the Planning Commission first looked at this and said, okay, we've been working on the building, we've been working on the site design. Now came this section that needed to take place in order for this facility to be developed. The request looks at 4,300 square feet of land that is presently used as landscaping, plus about 3,200 square feet of building space in the south end of the building, to be used and transferred for ownership to the 911 district. As the Planning Commission looked at that for consideration of compliance with the general plan, they considered a couple things. One, the CBD master plan, a community plan that talked about a governmental area between 22nd and 21st Street, as you can see in that map shown on the right. Also, that in the plan language itself of the general plan, it talks about creating general public purposes and using property that will help benefit the citizens of Ogden. That 911 center is a benefit to the citizens of Ogden and coordinating responses to emergencies. And being located at this facility allows a better usage of property for these activities to take place, such as police, fire, and the 911 center. As the Planning Commission looked at this, they felt that it was consistent with the general plan to look at transfers of property and have recommended to you by a 5-0 vote to do that. They did have a couple conditions on that. One is there to be a condominium plat recorded, which is the mechanism to convey the property. And two is that because of the governmental interest in that section of land, that there be some type of reversion clause that if 911 Center does not use that facility, that it be reverted back to the city in a way for the city to, again, acquire the property. It came up in the meeting that there may be bond restrictions of how things are done, that maybe the city takes a second position in that. So the Planning Commission had some caveats in this recommendation about reversion based on what maybe the bond council may require in doing this. Mark?
So ordinarily, when we're talking about conveyance of city-owned property, it's an administrative action that the mayor undertakes and that you don't have any direct involvement in. However, under state code, if it's proposed that the property can be conveyed for some other alternate consideration, or that's the legal term for value, for some other value than just cash, then it's up to the council to make a public policy determination that, in fact, the value that the city is receiving is adequate for the property. And in this case, it's a bit of an interesting situation because this is really property that the city wouldn't sell under really any other circumstance. It's not like that the Planning Commission would authorize this property to be conveyed to a different party, or that the mayor would consider transferring it even if somebody came in and said, hey, I'll give you whatever we can determine is the appraised value for this property, because of the nature of the use and how it's involved in the public services, or the administration of public services and public safety procedures. But in the case of the 911 Center, the administration, the mayor believes that there is alternate value that we would get as a city that is not reflected in dollars and cents. And that starts with the ability to coordinate between city emergency personnel and the 911 personnel. So as officers or fire officials are investigating different kinds of issues, that they have direct access to the people that are making the calls and sending out the dispatch information, and they're able to respond to those situations more quickly by having easy access to the 911 office personnel. Another particularly important area for that has to do with the city's emergency operations center, and that in an emergency there are people there making decisions about how we respond to that emergency and the need to be able to get that information out quickly. And so the proposal here for your discussion is, first of all, to understand that why a condominium is being used, that a condominium allows the 911 district to use space that it's already been leasing for 15 years and has a long history of being in this building, and they can continue to use some of that space inside of the building, plus build in space that currently is not developed. And so this area right here, it represents the space that's currently landscaped that is going to be in addition to the building, and then mostly on the second floor of the building, some of the space inside that is going to be part of the unit. And if we can go to the next slide here. So this shows the first and second floors of the building. This here is the first floor of the building. You can see that Unit 2, which is proposed to be conveyed to the 911 district, is primarily all of this new space with just a minor amount of space on the first floor that they will use inside of the building. And then on the second floor of the building, a little bit more of the interior space. The new space approximately goes across this line here, and this is the space they currently occupy, minus a couple of offices that that the city will be getting back for its use on the second floor. And so that's why we need to use a condominium rather than some other kind of plat, is to accommodate that shared use of the existing building plus the expansion space. And so again, when we talk about what is it that makes up the value, there is a limited market of people that this property could be transferred to, or that we would even consider dealing with. We've talked about the benefits of co-location. One thing we haven't discussed too much is the value to the taxpayers in not having this building cost more than it otherwise would. And the 911 district serves a number of entities, primarily in Weber County, but most of the single largest entity that serves is Ogden City. And Ogden City taxpayers support the 911 district in its activities. If the district had to go buy new property, not only would it have to deal with the value of the land itself, but it would have to deal with the security measures that are currently in place at the building that it's located in, and the other kind of infrastructure when it comes to communications gear and all of those things that go with the 911 service. And all of that would have to be loaded into the cost of a new and expanded building, and taxpayers would have to pay for those additional costs. And so by keeping them where they're at and by conveying this to the 911 district, it doesn't really materially affect our emergency services personnel, because the space that they're currently using they're still continuing to use, and it allows them to expand on space that isn't being used for other purposes. And so it benefits taxpayers of Ogden City by reducing the overall cost. And in addition, as a condominium unit, the 911 district will pay for its proportionate share of common area expenses, which will help to keep those costs in line with where they've been historically, so that they don't rise. And so for those reasons, the administration believes that it's justified and is asking for your approval to determine alternate consideration. If you have any questions, I do have one other point, which is that the mayor did have a public hearing on this matter, which is required by our city code and by state law, and nobody appeared at that hearing to protest. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Madam Chair, if I may. With respects to the building, that clause that the planning commissioner recommended we put in there that if it's not used for the 911, that it revert back to the city. What would be the disposition of the building? Would it be surrendered at that point, or would the city be required to purchase it, or?
So the request that's been given to you in the proposed action item is to allow the mayor to work that out. The expectation is that if this was no longer used as a 911 district purpose and they move to a new building somewhere else, that there would be a reversionary interest in the city. We would probably be looking at some kind of purchase based on the value at that point, but that the reversionary interest would come to the city before they could go and try to market it to anybody else, and then it would just be incorporated into the city's public safety program. Does that answer the question?
It does. I just, since it couldn't be used, it's a sensitive building and can't be used for that many kinds of things. You wouldn't want them to be able to just go sell it. So
correct. And there will be a little bit of need to work on some final language with the bond holder about exactly how that will happen. And so the authorization here is for the mayor to work that language out.
I'm also wondering, maybe Tina's the better one to ask this question to, is what time frame is this anticipated to serve the 911 operations? Maybe
Tina Matthew is here, so certainly.
Thanks, Tina Matthew. The plan right now is for it to be a 25-year plan, so that we would plan on being there for that long. And then at that point, maybe if there was a need to leave, the police or fire department would need expanded area as well. But it is a 25-year plan.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a question for you before you step down. Sorry, just wanted to clarify. We talked about it in the work session. So you anticipate that the current level of revenue will be sufficient to pay for the debt obligation for the anticipated bond?
Right.
Foresee any changes in the charges for services to the districts?
As far as the tax increase? So the way the district is created, the county commissioners are the only ones that can have a tax increase. When the district was created 8 years ago, when it was voted in, the citizens voted in a range in which the tax rate could fluctuate, that they would be okay with before we had to do and go to another vote. And we are less than half of the range that was voted in, and we have not had a tax increase since we became a district. With that being said, we have recently used spent approximately $4 million on a major software system that we upgraded or replaced for all of the police and fire for all of Weber and Morgan County and the district. And so our fund balance isn't as much as it was. We used fund balance and had been saving for that project. So if there was a reason for a tax increase, it wouldn't be for a couple of years, and it would be more for just normal growth that we're experiencing and to cover costs, health and personnel costs and things like that. But right now, the commissioners are not looking at a tax increase. So,
with this added space, how many new employees do you anticipate?
In the first year, none. We're just so cramped in there right now. It's just we will have additional consoles, so we will have room for additional employees. But for 2017, we will not be asking for any new employees.
So parking won't be an issue?
Parking will not be an issue.
Do you interact at all with the real-time crime center that's in that same building?
We do, actually.
So it's kind of important that you be in some proximity with them then, huh?
Correct. There's actually a doorway in between the real-time crime center and into the dispatch floor right now.
Okay.
So, and that door would still remain. It would enter in through what would become a training room, but they would have direct access into the 911 center. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I appreciate your consideration on this. I also wanted to say thank you to the mayor, Mark Johnson, Mark Stratford, and Greg Montgomery with the approach that they've taken, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So with that, I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2016-23.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt the proposed resolution. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next on our agenda item is a public comment. It's an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. Seeing no movement this way, comments from the mayor.
Yeah, I'll just quickly reiterate my appreciation for everybody that worked on this branding process. Those can be very subjective and very emotional, and I thought everybody really spent the time to go through all of it, and it gives us a great place to start from. I think it'll evolve over time, as we've talked about, but I do appreciate everyone's involvement in getting us to this point. I think it's a great start.
Comments from the council members.
Chair White, if I may. Just want to add to the mayor's comments about the branding initiative. I just want to make the comment that, bless you, pardon. That although we may not all love every element of it, what I definitely love about this campaign and the initiative is the amount of input that was put into it from so many people and the amount of hard work that went into it. And it's because of that collaboration, the amount of community input and communication that's gone through the process. It's that reason that I fully endorse it in its entirety. Thank you.
And just some other comments. We want to recognize former council member Susie Van Hooser for being here with us tonight. It's always good to see you. And we have some big activities this Saturday going on in Ogden, so please come down and enjoy the festival and also the New Hope Walk, and hope to see a big crowd there.
At Harvest Moon? Yeah.
Are you running the
Walk?
metro thing? I can't remember what they call it exactly. Mountain to Metro? Yeah. I considered it, but I would be in after dark.
I want to do a quick shout out to Carol McNamara and her crew at the Walker Institute. They put on a really great concert for Rock the Vote. If you didn't get down there or didn't hear Bob Moses, it was he is really, really good. So
Thank you for representing us there.
it was fun. Any other comments?
I think we're done.
Is that a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's a wrap.